Welcome back, friends. In this particular module and subsequent 2 more modules, we will be looking at a very important concept of any object oriented language. C++ is not pure object oriented in the sense that it does not enforce its object oriented culture to a programmer, and we have talked about this and will be talking about this in future as well. But it provides this facility. In a programmer seems fine with it, it will use it, otherwise he will not use it. So, we will be talking about something called inheritance. That means, I can have a class and I just like everything about the class and like to use it in my own class. I may use it by just inheriting. And I do not, in fact, one worst thing that you can do is you just do it without really thinking. That is not a very good use of inheritance. We will soon see what is a good use of inheritance. But we will be talking about inheritance. When inheritance is an ability of a class to get all members of the other class available to it without anything else and you can manipulate them, and how and which form it will be manipulated we will be talking about in this particular module. We will talk about varieties of inheritance provided by C++. Obviously, inheritance, remember, it is I have a class and I am going to use that class in the other class that I am defining now. So, there are 3 different types of inheritance, or sometimes called derivation, sometimes called inheritance. The 3 different types, one is called public derivation, the other one is called private derivation, and the third one is protected, and we will be looking at all 3 of them soon. And there is something called sub object. Whenever inheritance takes place, it actually copies the base class object inside in a different form, which is known as a sub object. Inheritance may be implemented in many other ways, but C++ object model has designed this because it is most efficient fashion. It is the best way you can provide the highest level of efficiency. Okay. And the access specifiers of the base class changes as per the inheritance. For example, if the base class you have defined a member as public and you inherit that thing using a private inheritance, eventually it becomes private in the derived class, okay, the class in which it is inherit, and we will soon see. And there is something called further inheritance. You just inherit a class into a class A into class B, and then you inherit class B into class C. So, it is called further inheritance. So, we will also look at further inheritance and how you choose private and protected and how it impact this choice is discussed in this particular module. Okay, let us begin with the simple concept of a base and a derived class. Having a new class from an old class is what an inheritance is all about. Again, like I normally do, I usually provide a working definition of something to start with. At the end of the module, you probably have much bigger, much more understandable definition of your own, and I am not going to force you on any definition right in the beginning. Many other authors provide, and that is their own way of doing it, but a very complicated, but kind of covering everything kind of a definition in the beginning itself, and then explore that definition along the discussion. Fine, I prefer this method. That means, having a new class from an old class means having an old data and function members of the old class in the new class, simple. Not only that, in the new class can also have some additional features, additional members of its own, and in this case we call this new class inherited from the base. The class which is inherited is called base class, the class which is inherited is the base class, the class in which it is inherited, the class which inherits base is called derived class. For example, here is an example given. We define a class called vehicle, and then there is a class called scooter, okay, and you say that scooter is inherited from vehicle. So, it contains everything about vehicle, like vehicle registration number and RTO date and so on and so forth, owner's name and so on and so forth. It contains all that information inside. You do not need to redefine those things, those members in the scooter class. Now, this is a real example of a case where the inheritance makes sense, and not always it makes sense. and scooter might have many property. For example, scooter might have something called gear type that is not there in the vehicle. So, you define that thing additionally in the scooter class. So, inheriting does not mean that you just use the old class as is. In fact, if it is so, you will anyway use the old class only. Why you need a new class? So, new class usually have some additional properties. For example, gear type in a scooter class is additionally provided. Okay. And but then there is one misconception that I would like to draw your attention as. Many of the authors even say that reusability is the advantage of inheritance. That is right, but that does not mean that it is the purpose for which you should use inheritance. That is wrong. In the beginning, I just said that there is a class which I like. Why? Great, it has almost everything that I want. I just inherit that thing into my own class and just get rid of the labor that I need to redefine those members. Is it a great thing? No, this is not the right thing. Okay. I am not able to explain why I am against or why the purists are against this, but it is basically related to the design. A design says that a design principle says that the inheritance should only be between two entities of having easy relationship. Now, what an easy relationship is? Easy relationship, you can at this point of time assume it to be a subset of relationship. So, for example, scooter and a vehicle. So, scooter is a vehicle, seems right. Why? Because scooter actually is a subset of vehicle class, okay. And that is the reason why you call scooter is a this thing vehicle. One more way to see is that an object of class X is also an object of class Y, then X is possible to be inherited from Y for all cases. So, all scooters are all vehicles, and that is the reason why scooter inherits from vehicle. It is not the other way around. Not all vehicles are scooters. So, its vehicle comes on the top and then in the scooter. A specialization comes beneath a general concept. That is the case. Only in such cases you should use inheritance and not otherwise. And I have seen some students doing it just for the purpose of doing it, without really knowing what they are doing is right or wrong. It has serious consequences if you do not follow this. Okay. Point is, inheritance should be restricted to cases only when there is an easier relationship and not otherwise. You require disciplined programming. One of my friends who is a Java expert, he says that C is really bad because it does not impose this discipline on the programmers, and I believe he is right. Point is, but then if you are thinking from C++ point of view, C++ point of view is different. The designers think that I will provide everything to the user. Now, it is users, onus is on him to use it where it is needed. Okay. Like you are given a sword, now you like to use it for good purpose or bad is your choice. Okay. That is the philosophy of this language. So, please understand, it is not the question of bad or good or bad. Is the question whether what is the philosophy of a language, and that is the reason why I am constantly stressing on the philosophy of the C++ language. The C++ language is very clear about its motive, will give you everything. Now, as a programmer, it is your duty to decide, okay? And that is the reason why I am telling you that this inheritance is available to you, and if you do not use it purposefully, if you do not use it in the right fashion, consequences are all yours. Okay. The language cannot help here, it is not designed to help. So, if you model, for example, if you say that king is inherited from queen, nobody will tell you no, C++ compiler will not flag an error if you do something like that, but it is absolutely wrong. Okay. Okay. And there are other properties. In fact, easy is just one property that holds between two classes, and there are other properties. For example, there is one more property, color of. Okay. There is a class called player, okay, and there is a class called jersey, and there is a class called color. Now, jersey has some color, okay, and that is an object. Now, that color class and the player this jersey class has this relationship. Now, this is not easy relationship, there is something else. So, we call it color relationship. So, that way there are many different ways to establish relationships, If you want to study a little more, what you can do is you can look at one more EPG Pathshala module on AI, which obviously I have written that part, and I did talk about how this happens, what exactly an easier relationship and all that. You better look at that part, go to that AI, and AI is also available in MOOC form now. So, you can even refer to that anyway, but the point is, unless there is an easier relationship, it is not good to inherit, but language will not stop anyway. But if you do it right, for example, if you do right inheritance, inherit scooter from vehicle is an absolutely right thing. Okay. Inheriting cricketer from a player is absolutely right, because all cricketers are players, okay. All scooters are vehicles, and if when this is the case, it is an easier relationship. Okay. And here we are talking about the advantage. When you are doing it, there is a lot of advantage. For example, if you are doing a website development, somebody decides a page, and let us call it a default page, and the default page contains almost everything, every button and all that a normal programmer will do. Now, the great thing about this thing is, when I inherit that class from my page from that default page, I do not need to add those default buttons and the border and the color and all that. It is all available to me. Not only that, I have a freedom to remove some of them and add my own buttons, my own border, I change the color and so on and so forth. So, I can actually extend the idea which is there in the old that thing, but the biggest advantage is that I do not need to start from scratch. That is the biggest advantage. Second advantage is that if somebody has designed a default page, and on page with this event handling part, which when somebody clicks that button, what should happen, so on and so forth. If there is any error, probably it has been corrected long before, because this thing is being used by multiple people, and if any error ever would be caught and repaired. So, most likely that the base class that I am inheriting is more robust than a conventional case. So, that is the other advantage that I have. Okay. It becomes more robust. So, this is a good idea to inherit in this case, you can see that this is an advantage. But then I have stressed that thing, that C++ does not enforce inheritance on the programmer, no. Okay. If you want, you have, if you do not want, it is just fine. Okay. You can write standalone classes with standalone objects, this class does not inherit from anything, it is just fine. And if you, for example, if you, for comparison, if you pick up Java, there is a super class called object from which every other class is derived. Whenever user defines his own class, will have some inheritance relationship with that object. Okay, you cannot escape from this, as inheritance is forced on the programmer. It is not a bad idea, please understand, it's both languages, concepts are different, their philosophy is different, and that is why they provide features which are according to their philosophy. So, I am not telling whether the Java is bad or C++ is bad, they have different outlooks, the designers have different outlooks, and because these languages are used for different purposes, those outlooks are justified, please understand. Okay. So, C++ is not bad if it is not doing it, and Java is not good if it is providing, okay, kind of. Okay. And programmers, here the power is with the programmer. If I am a programmer, I will decide whether object oriented paradigm is right, and if I need to go for inheritance. Object orientation is little more than inheritance, that we will see later how object oriented programming is really done in C++. But at this point of time, you can understand one thing, that if I want, I will have inheritance, if I do not want, I do not have inheritance, is absolutely fine. One good help you can get from the inheritance is that you can have a single platform for multiple classes. For example, I have a class called car and scooter and a truck and a bicycle, and for all of them I need to store some information. Whenever I start working on these different classes, I realize that car and scooter and everything has few things common. For example, the owner's name, for example, the vehicle registration number, maybe bicycle may not need, but other cases you require this vehicle registration number and color of the vehicle and so on and so forth, the cost of the vehicle. There are few things which are common. Now, if you store those things in separate sets, separate classes, the problem is that one class may contain some information, the other class contains slightly different application. Not only that, later on the government decides that any vehicle that you purchase must be purchased using online this thing, and you must provide your PAN number and other details. See, if you are a programmer, if you have defined all these 4 classes and now you have an additional requirement that PAN number of the owner also should be there in the database. Now, what you are supposed to do is to go to each class and change that, and if there are 5 such cases and you modify 4 cases and you forget to change the 5th, you are in trouble. Okay. This is a common problem, and it is not your problem, it is everybody's problem. When you will have to do it redundant types, it is quite possible that you do it somewhere, you do not do it at the other end, or if you do it in all 5, but then one of them is slightly different. For example, in one of them you apply cost as 2 plus 2, like 2 point before a decimal point and 2 digits after decimal point. In some other 3 decimal points and so on, 3 digits before decimal point and so on and so forth. Now, that is called mismatch. When you have something like that, there are serious consequences of this problem. So, instead of that, what we can do is we can take up all these common features together and keep them in the class, okay, the base class. Now, you inherit all these 3 classes from that base class. What do you need to do? Simple, change that thing in the base class, and once you change in the base class, the change is reflected in all 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 or 100 classes. You do not need to go and pick up individual class and do it, and that is the advantage, the other advantage of this inheritance. Okay. The other thing is common attributes are stored at a single place, and there is one more example. Okay, just take the case of 3 different classes, batsman, bowler and a fielder. Okay. I want to store that information. Again, you can see that bowler's name is also there, batsman name is a single attribute, and number of tests that he has played. See here, whether it is right handed or left handed, his height, weight, yo-yo test. Now, if you are observing how India plays cricket, they have something called yo-yo test already. Yo-yo test result, age and number of ODIs played, number of tests played, number of T20s played. Now, these are common things. Now, I do not need to store that thing in all 3 classes. I will use a single class called cricketer and copy all that thing at a single place, and that is the advantage. Okay. And there are many similar cases, employee, furniture, shape, cricketer. Now, please understand one thing, here we are talking about classes which do not have any real world counterpart. I have somebody who is a batsman, who is a bowler, who is a fielder, but do I have somebody who is only a cricketer and not this? No. In fact, you pick up any object will be either bowler, batsman or fielder, but obviously I need an additional class called cricketer, so I am adding it. Similarly, I pick up something, there is a table, there is a chair or there is something else, but there is nothing called furniture in true sense. Okay. Furniture is basically, you call that thing as a collection, is an abstract concept. The same thing is here, employee, furniture, shape, cricketer, these are all abstract concepts. Okay. And whenever you do it for design purpose, they are represented by something called abstract classes, and we will be talking about abstract classes later, but they are the classes which do not have any members in true sense. Okay. For example, and one of the advantages of this mechanism is, if you want to change something, you can do it in a single place. For example, these cricketers are paid and their bank details are to be provided, IFSC code and bank account number and a few other things. Then those things are to be added only in that base class, and you do not need to add them in the other separate classes. Okay. So, that is the advantage of this mechanism. Not only that, real world also have lot of inheritance there, natural, and if you want to model that thing in the language has a built in type, so it becomes very easy for you to model that thing into. Okay. For example, shape inherits into rectangle and ellipse actually, and then rectangle inherits into square and ellipse into circle. So, that is possible, you can do it. C++ also provides support for manipulating this hierarchy. I do not need to, like, there is a direct syntax that I can use, and once I use that syntax, I can actually manipulate that syntax. It is very easy. I do not need to do much, provide logic actually. There is no logic, I just need to know exactly what the syntax is, and I will just use that syntax for doing it. But remember, language this support is only for implementing and manipulating. Language will not correct your hierarchy if you have done something wrong. That has been said before, so I do not want to talk about again. User may implement wrong model, please understand. Okay. So, that is not the language's fault. Okay, how C++ models inheritance? For example, I just write class, derived name, an access specifier and name of base. Access specifier, as I said, there are 3 types: public, private and protect, and we will see what that mean. And here is an example: class derived colon public base and then the body of the derived. Normally, this part is not there. If you do not inherit, you just say class derived and the body. Now, this is inserted in the header colon and then this is the access specifier and this is the class from which this class is being inherited. This is how it, and the base class members are made available to derived class. Okay. And in fact, the base class is embedded in the derived class for this purpose. So, all members are available, and how that is done we will soon see, and that is called sub object, as I have mentioned before. Okay. When you use public access specifier, the base class is publicly inherited into the derived class. All public members of the base class are available as public in the derived class. All protected members, you do not know what protected are for the time being, but assume them to be private, is they are as good as private unless they are inherited. So, protected members in the base class are available as protected, and the private members of the base class are not accessible, but are still available. It is they are not accessible directly, they are accessible indirectly. We will soon see how they are. Okay, there is an indirect access possible. Now, let us take an example to understand what I am talking about. I have this class called base and there is a private integer value. Now, this is a private member and this is a public member, and that is why you have PR and PB preceding them, indicating that they are private and public. Now, an interesting member, a function member which is setting a value to a private member. Please understand. Now, the objects, please understand that if I define base B, this B I cannot write dot PR base int equal to 5. I cannot do this. This is not allowed, but I can actually do it. P dot set PR base int now this will actually do it. This will indirectly manage this private base. Okay. So, this is an indirect way of doing it. Now, what we do is DPB derived from public is public base. Now, this is an XX specifier. So, what does that mean? This class will have its own object. This is something which is part of this thing of this class. Additionally, this base class is also available in the beginning. Okay. So, there is a derived class which is publicly derived, which also contains base class data as well as all this data. It has one more private data member which is a private member of derived class. We have a public member of the derived class and again PR which sets. Now, this is an important one which manages this thing indirectly. Okay. Interestingly, now what I can do is I am defining a derived object. The derived object cannot call the derived the base private member. Base private member is not directly accessible. So, this is not allowed. So, this is commented. Derived object cannot call manipulate private members of the derived class. So, that also is commented, but obviously, the base class public member is available as public. So, I can manage it. Okay. Public member of the derived class is also available obviously. So, that is also there. Interestingly, now this is very interesting. What does this mean? I am calling set PR base int. Now, that is a public member of the base class. So, it is available to me, to my object, and I am calling it and setting the value of that private member to 20. Now, that member is not directly available, but I am indirectly it is available to me. So, I am setting it, and this is setting the public member of it. So, please understand the derived member. See, this is my base class and this is my derived class. Now, when I get the derived object, this base class sub object is available as well as this available. Okay. So, this PR, PB, PRD end, PBD end and these three functions are already they are available. Okay, they are available here, but additionally I have this PR base int, they are all there. PR base int I cannot access directly, but it is there. I am calling it, you can see that I am accessible, I am setting that value. So, it is not that it is not available, and this is again a problem with some of the authors. Okay, I have read some books where it is written that the private members are not available. That is wrong. It is not available directly. It is available, and you can only manipulate them through public members of the base class if they are available. The next type of inheritance is a private inheritance. So, when you inherit privately, the advantage is that all public members of the base class is treated as a private, protected will be also treated as a private. Private members are not available. So, base class members are still available to you, but in different form than the original form. Okay. But again the private members of the base are not directly available, but indirectly they are. Okay. Protected and public, both of them are available as private. Okay. And here is an example. The same thing you can see that the base is not different from the earlier example. You have a private member, a public member and a public function to manage this. Okay. Now, I am deriving, the difference between a previous and this case is that I am now deriving it privately. So, all base class members now are derived using private inheritance. So, public members of the base class will become private, protected members will become private, and private members like the earlier case are not directly available. Okay. So, here they are public derived in the set, okay, we will set that value, and this is an important thing. I am defining a member in the derived class. Now, this function is very important for us to understand. This is a public member of the derived class, okay, which can call this member. Now, this was a public member of the base class, because I am inheriting privately, it becomes private for the derived class. When it becomes private for the derived class, my derived class objects will not be able to access it, but my members will still be able to. So, I am able to call it from here, okay, and setting the value. Now, this is setting the value for a private member of the base class, that means it is still available even after the private derivation, it is still available, but quite indirectly. I will have to call the member function of the base class through a member function of the derived class, then and then I will be able to access, otherwise not. An interesting thing is that this is basically a member function. Set PR base int is a member function. How can I call that thing without object dot notation? Remember, member functions requires that. How it is done is basically by a simple trick, and this is quite logical also. Please understand that the caller itself is a member function. So, it is called by some object. So, some object dot set PBPR base int, it is called. The very object is used as a left hand side of this. How it is done, you will probably understand when I will talk about this pointer and how this pointer is implemented and how C++ object model works, but basically it is the same object which has invoked this is used as the argument to invoke this. Okay. So, please understand that though I am using this member function as if it is a standalone function, it is not truly a standalone function, or non-member function is basically a member function, and the invoking object is the very object which has invoked this. And now, because there is a private inheritance, this is public base which become private, so I cannot call it now. Okay. I can't, and this again is a public member of the base class. So, I cannot access my object cannot access this. So, this again is not allowed, but I can still call my derived public members, and in fact, one of the derived public members will call the public member of the base class, which in turn calls or manipulates the private member of the base class. So, it is still available to me. Now, we have used protected, word protected a few times. So, let us try to understand what that protected is. So far, we have only looked at two specifiers, private and public. We have not said anything about protected, and protected does not make any sense without talking about inheritance. So, that discussion is delayed. And if you are defining something as protected in a class and the class is not inherited further, there is no difference between protected and private. The difference is only when the class is inherited further. Please understand that. So, if you are defining something as protected, it is as good as private unless you inherit, that is the point. Remember, the private variable is not available to the derived class. You will have to address that thing in an indirect way. Unlike that, if it is a protected member, it is available to a derived class, and that is the difference. Okay. It is available to derived class as protected. What does it mean? Derived class public members can access them, not derived class objects. So, protected members are private, like private, public members can access them, objects do not. Same way, when they are inherited further, they will act as protected. That means, functions, member functions can access them, but not objects. Here is an example. We have something called PT base int, which is protected instead of private. And there is only this difference between the earlier program and this program, and almost everything is the same. Instead of set PR base int, we have set PT based int. Now, we inherit in a public way, and I am also private, everything else is the same, but see this difference. Private member of the base class was not available here. I have to call a public member of the base class to access that. Now, I can access that thing directly. So, when I can access directly, that is the difference. Because as I said, the earlier it was protected, inherited, it still remains protected. It is kind of a public member, private member to this class. So, that is the difference. And now, if I am doing it, almost everything is the same, but see this. This function calls that value directly instead of calling a base class function. Now, this is a summary of what we have talked about. If I inherit using private, the base class private is not available, protected is not available, public is not available. Oh, sorry, if this is my base class, I have defined something as a private, it is not available in all three cases. In a base class, if I have defined something as a protected, if it is a private, it will be private, protected will be protected, public will be protected. And if something that I have defined in the base class is public, and if I derive as private, will be available as private, protected is protected and public is public. So, public actually you can see that the base class and the derived class type do not change, but it is not available, though it is private. I said private, but they are not directly available, they are indirectly available. So, the observations which I talked about are listed: public inheritance, protected and private inheritance. In a further derived class, the difference is little more obvious. So, just take an example. This I have a private member and do public derivation, so it is not directly available. In private derivation, nothing is available. In protected, this thing is not available, not directly available. In case of protected, in a public derivation, I have protected, private derivation it is private, in a protected derivation it will become protected, and public derivation will be private, private derivation will be private, and protected derivation will be protected. So, you can see that it is something that I have already talked about, but suppose if the very class which is inherited further with public, you can see that public inheritance is almost keeping the same kind of a thing. This is, though private is not directly available. Private, when a class is privately inherited, there is no point in further deriving it, nothing is directly available, only available things are through member functions, otherwise nothing is available. Protected, The only difference between public and this is that the last case will become protected. So, further inheritance also is very critical for you to understand in this case. And when I am inheriting a class, I am inheriting further, what will happen? In most cases, to avoid all these complexities, the classes are inherited publicly. Okay. So, that simplifies most of the cases, but sometimes you prefer to do it in a different way, then you will have to be aware of all these consequences, type of member functions and all that. Why C++ has provided all this? There is a reason, but again you need to understand the philosophy of the language to understand. Okay. With that note, we will conclude this module. Friends, we have seen what inheritance is and how these three different types of inheritance is possible to be provided in C++, and when you provide that inheritance, what exactly happens to the base class members in the derived class. Okay. So, with that note, we will conclude. We will continue talking about the exception handling process in 2 more modules subsequently. Thank you all, friends.